Okay,
Okay,
I agree to record this meeting, and if you would like to share with us after the meeting.
of course, we will share. We usually do that, and that's a very nice community. It turns out Zoom is really a very important and helpful tool. But we want to hear about Krina. Yes, go ahead. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Krina Kirila. I work for the communication department in AQUATIM. Christina is my boss, actually. I usually deal with the publicity of the international programs developed by AQUATIM, but I'm also involved in the children programs at AquaPeak. I believe you know about AquaPeak. Christina told you, okay?
Not yet, Krina. You can just you can develop a little bit these topics, because it is, I think it is important to.
I would wait, Karina, wait a second until Ram joins us. He wants him to see, and so we will give you another chance to really describe it in detail.
Okay.
Ram is our Dr. Ram Neyman had joined us a year ago, and he's an excellent coordinator and leader of the international activity, and he just became a father. So his timing is hard because he helps his wife, but he will join us shortly. Myself, I come from the industry. I have a lot of years of experience in industry, various electrical engineers and others. I was in the military, in the Navy, and then started Haiti 20 years ago to really facilitate advanced education. So it's education that relates to the growth of knowledge and to new technologies, and we apply them with the education system. Okay.
Don't scare about his professional career, because all the retired people in Israel, they have working sometime for army. So, but they have professional in the water sector. I really appreciate their activities and their investment and their know-how. And they have a lot of things to do, and you have to learn a lot of things from their experience. I'm really impressed, not now, from a long time, participating to the World Water Congresses till 20 years ago. I have met a lot of presentation and a lot of good professionals in water sector.
Yes, it's really something that we had to develop because there was water shortages going back 4 years. Let me just, we have Ram now joining us. And so this is excellent. Ram, good morning. How are you? Ram, you have your audio coming on. We don't hear you. Can you hear us, Ram? All right, all right. Are you okay?
Can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, we hear you now. We hear you now. Okay. Good morning, Ram. We have Christina, and we have Karina. Karina is in charge of communication and the public relation aspects of the program, and she works with Christina. Christina is the boss of the department, and we waited to hear from Christina about herself before we let you introduce yourself and we get going.
Okay. I am I'm a chemist. I graduated the chemistry faculty. I was also a chemistry teacher a long time ago. I work also at AQUATIM in the field of potable water, drinking water, and wastewater treatment at the research department. But since 2000, I work at the communication department, and I am in charge with the communication processes and also social responsibility activities, including educational awareness and most of all implication in schools students and so on. We have also a foundation called Academica, and within
Very nice
Academica,
name. Very
yes,
nice name.
yes. And within Academica, we have a program, AquaPic. Pic means picture. I mean drops. Drops in Romanian languages. Aqua drops. I can translate into English, but AquaPic means a drop of water in Romanian languages. And here we actually we have a lot of activities, information and educational activities with children and with students, also of course with teachers.
And so the idea is that to try to attract them to come to the water industry.
Try to increase awareness related to water resources.
Okay.
And how to protect this
resource,
valuable resource.
Yes. Okay, right. This comes through from your website. Very good. Okay.
And at the same time, to be in a transparent process with the customers, because several times in Romania, the customers, they are not so well informed and they don't accept and agree the tariff, they don't understand the technologies, and we have to work a lot of in this process, education of all the customers, focusing on the young generation. Takes some time, of course.
This is usually the case, and so yes, I certainly understand the motivation very well. Okay, so as I said, Ram is a graduate of the PhD program at the Haifa University, just concluding his studies for PhD as cognitive sciences and studies of mathematics, really, in a way. And has been working with us now for almost a year, certainly a school year, and led the activity in Haifa, one of our biggest cities, where the Rotary Club that hosts the program resides. It's the biggest club in the country, and coordinating and running all the international activity with the 15 schools that we work with in Poland, in Kosovo, in Albania, in Romania, in the United States, and so forth, a very broad program. So here we are. So what we want to do is to show you a little bit about the program. It has a lot of relations to what you do, but I think it's somewhat more profound because it has been running for a long time, and because water is such a really leading edge subject in Israel, and so I think you will find it interesting. Before we proceed, let's see. It would be nice if you can write your email and telephone number on the chat, so we can then respond. We have it in the mail, but this way it will be easier. So we have it in the chat, and so this will enable us to communicate. I will share a screen with you to show you some of the things, and we will go briefly through it. And we then will use the time mostly to discuss. So we just don't want to just use the time on the presentation, but the presentation covers everything. So I believe I did send it to you, but I will go through it briefly, and let's see. Okay. All right. Ram, can you see the image nicely?
We can see it.
Yeah, you can see it. Very good. Okay. So let's start in the beginning. All right. So we have the Hands Across Water program, which is the water education program, to which we added the school twinning program, which we will discuss now. So next we will update this, of course, picture with you. And as I said, we did study your website and saw what you have in the museum, which is very nice, and your association with the Water Museum and the orientation towards the young generation. And especially I like the idea of the concept and what it aims to do and some of the activities that you see. So we went through it and we can relate to it. And of course, you can tell us more about it later. And here is the goal of what we do now in the twinning, which is to develop the awareness of the water challenges and the solutions, of which we have a lot in Israel, of course, through collaborative science education. So the idea is that we provide science education as it relates to school. So you will see it's a subtle difference, but we take the point of view of the school and not just of us being, from the industry and with the idea of promoting the awareness and so forth, but we take the view of what is important for the schools. And that is a very, very subtle, but very meaningful change. And we have adapted to it. It's not just a slogan. And this makes our program very, very successful. And you will see why. And highlights in one slide. This is really what we do. So STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, art, and math, namely very interdisciplinary approach to education. So when you look at water supply system, it has physics, it has economy, it has history, as you can show, and so forth. So all of these aspects make a background for good multidisciplinary education, which is a slogan that most schools in the world want to promote. They don't know how to do it. It's a very challenging task, and we struggled with that, and we know how to do it. So this is like simple one line, very difficult to achieve. So that's the one thing we do. And it is based, of course, on water and sanitation. We have another program on energy, which is very related, and other programs on the brain and other stuff. But now we focus on water, energy, the environment, and as it relates to energy, because energy relates to water. So this is the basis, and we want to make it relevant to the school curricula. I cannot emphasize this subject enough. That is, we have interesting subjects like awareness of water, but this is what we from the industry come to bring. The children, our grandchildren, we want them to know mathematics, English, physics, and so forth. So the school and the education system, they have an agenda, and they cast it into what they call a curricula. And they need to oblige by the curricula. And so we learn that if we can make what we teach relevant to the curricula, then we have a different story. Then all of a sudden our contribution is meaningful for them, not just because for us. So they don't do us a favor and give us an hour or 2 hours for a course, but rather spend the whole year studying what we suggest if we do this correctly. So this is really the key of what we do. In terms of pedagogy and the way we teach, we use research-based learning, project-based activity, and so forth. So it's not just lectures, but really activity, and therefore it is very futuristic and engaging. So we talk with the children and we engage in research with them. What will the situation look like when they grow up and when they become in charge, and not just tell them about the history and about Newton and so forth. So this is very futuristic, and the children like it, of course. And we connect with a lot of cultures. So the fact that we in Israel now work with you in Romania, and of course, other places in Eastern Europe, we work with Arabs in Israel, including in its very troubling days today. We have collaborative work with Arabs in Jerusalem and in the Galilee, and it is much appreciated, not very easy to do, but this is one of the things that we emphasize. So these are the key elements of the program, and we will show you how this implements it. We do it with the industry, so you see the children in a desalination activity and in the research in the Technion, the Israeli leading university. So some typical numbers, because we've been running for 16 years now, and we have 8 countries collaborating. We have 100 schools that worked with us, 50 participated in the program last year. We had 16,000 students in this program only. Overall, in our programs, we had 22,000 students over the years. And of course, we trained hundreds of teachers to use our curricula. We have many partners, about 70 Rotary clubs, industry, such as yourself and other utilities, government, and academia. We have a tremendous amount of content. We have a Moodle-based university, really, in a way, for high school and middle school, with 250 chapters and 350 presentations. In fact, the amount of content is really overwhelming, and so we need to support the teachers in how to find a way within it and to tailor a solution for every school depending on their interest area. We have hundreds of water site visits that we bring students to and teachers, and of course, virtual visits now these days as well, when during the corona they could not come and visit. And we were formally recognized as a noteworthy project, and had a lot of prizes, both in Israel and worldwide, the Stockholm Water Prize and other prizes. So we really excelled in that respect and had a lot of recognition. And it is really developed in a way based on our concept initially to address the fact that knowledge is growing so fast. So let me dwell a minute on that. This is really the main reason why I became involved in education, because my background is primarily high tech and in engineering, but I was exposed to the fact that knowledge grows exponentially. When I was a child, I was very impressed with it. And the time constant for doubling of knowledge way back in the 60s when I went to high school was 10 years. Well, now it is almost 6 months. So everything we know doubles every 6 months. So it's a fascinating world, very changing and very dynamic. And this is what makes education so important. Because think about it, the children today in the classroom will hit this working for AQUATIM or other industries, at least 10 years from now, maybe more like 20 years from now, until they finish high school and university and do all the training. Now, if the knowledge doubles twice annually, this is times 4 every year, 10 years, it is 4 to the power of 10. This is 1 million times more knowledge about water, about saving water, about water resources, generation of water, the bacterial challenge, viruses, hygiene, and so forth. Imagine that everything will be times 1 million. So it's a different world, a completely different world. And we're talking about the children in the classroom today. They are our target. So a different approach is needed, and that's really what we're doing. And we've been recognized with that. And with this motivation, of course, the program became very excelling because we really are avant-garde in that respect. We also develop a lot of things. We certainly make a lot of mistakes because we are avant-garde and we are daring, but most of what we do is successful. And here is what it, following is what it actually is. So here's an example of our activity with school children together. So you have a Jewish school working with an Arab school. This is up in the Galilee. And so they work together in a joint lesson. And this is about 7 years ago. So we've been doing it ever since, and we are very proficient in that now, and you will see. But we've been doing that, real practical collaboration since the days when even the internet was very challenging and there was no Zoom and anything, but still we were doing that effort, and we have a lot of experience with it. There is a video clip here that shows the nature of the program. I will try to open it up and show it to you, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. So let us see. Do you see it good enough? Okay, there are a few videos here, so we will not dwell on all of it, but this is water-inspired science education. This is a desalination facility. This is an old well that the children use as a base for physics studies and building models. And this is a teacher training of all cultures from around the world. And this is a chemistry experiment. This is very interesting. This is a facility that makes water valves. So they went through the entire facility, including testing and everything. And we have a number of these. And this is agriculture, including the collection of rainwater, as you can see. And so the studies are involved with physics and with the history of energy and propulsion. And the chemistry, of course, is the quality of water and so forth. We have contributors from around the world, and you can see a report from a teacher about the impact that the program had on their school, and what she's actually saying is it helped transform the school, and that teacher went to another school and so forth. And these children were selected as the best practice in the country, and they presented their work to 300 leading teachers and schoolmasters in Jerusalem to other schools. So they're very excelling, one of our first prizes in the program. And these children built a recycling system for your hygiene and for your washing and sanitary at home. Very exciting system, and for recycling water in the bathroom. And that's, of course, chemistry in the test, and that's the teacher. By the way, the teacher is a veterinarian. She's a PhD, she's a doctor in veterinarian, and she is a teacher. This is, again, another leading edge science with Jewish and Arab students together. This professor from Munich studies the history of climate. How does he do that? He is looking at aqueducts. These are Roman aqueducts all over Europe and the Mediterranean. And in the residue here, you have the residue here that over the years bears within it and the structure, the isotope structure of the materials residing in the water, a reflection of the temperature. So if you take a slice of these pieces of aqueduct and you analyze them with isotope analysis, you can learn something about the temperature over time. So this is a brand new method that was developed about 7 years ago in Munich. And the professor that developed it came to Israel, did some research because we have a lot of antiquities. So it's a nice idea for a museum. We have a lot of museums and antiquities. And the students were exposed to it. So you see the immediate connection between science, cutting edge, and the students. So you see a piece of the residue there, and you see a lot of Lego. And here is the valve company again being tested. And so the students come and they see the pressure gauge and the way it is tested and so forth. So they get engaged in real life, and then they build it in Lego. So I suggest we stop here. There just is, it goes on forever. But the idea is that you can see and watch this video by yourself, and it's really very interesting to watch. Okay, you have the presentation, so just click on it and you will see it. Now, we had a visit by Barry Rassin, the president of Rotary International. Now, I'm sure you know of the Rotary if you know Florine, and the Rotary is really a leading international organization. The biggest one in the world, really, in terms of members, were about 1.3 million members around the world. Very big organization. And they have water as a main subject among the 7 subjects that they think are very important. And Barry Rassin, who was the president of the entire organization around the world, visited us in June of 2019 after we had 3 grants, or 2 grants rather, from the Rotary. And he came to see a school in Israel of Jewish and Arab students working together in Jerusalem. And he was very impressed. And he said, what you do is wonderful. It has education, it has collaboration of cross cultures, and it has water, 3 of the elements that the Rotary cherishes, main items. And so he said, let's find a way to take this to the world. And so this is what we did. And we looked at a motivation. So we said, we can take it to the world, we can tell about what we do in Israel, but what would be the motivation for students in the world? And of course, the challenge is that in order to treat water infrastructure seriously, as you know at AQUATIM, a lot of money is needed. because you need desalination or wastewater treatment or anti-flood, anti-pollution. You know, there's a lot of costs involved, a lot of investment if you want to prevent leakage. If you don't want to lose 20 or 30% of your water, you need to prevent the leaks. And that's a lot of money in the pipes and so forth. So you need a lot of awareness in order to be able to invest this tremendous amount of money that's needed worldwide, $40 trillion. So the only way to do this is to promote awareness, because $40 trillion is a number that's too big even for the Rotary. This is a number that relates, you know, to the World Bank and to governments and so forth, as you must very well know. So the only way to impact that and to see to it that in the future it will be invested is to worry about awareness of the public, and not just awareness locally, you know, on the tariff, but the awareness of the public in general, so that the government take action and so forth. And that we thought we can do with the Rotary. This is of the scale of what we can do through schools, education, and with the help of the Rotary. So we decided to use this as a goal. It was not easy to formulate this. As Florin said, we visited Romania about 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, and discussed with people at Cluj, with the water industry and Rotarians, and they liked the idea. And so we started to think of how to collaborate. And then we met with Americans and others and spent a lot of time of thinking of what would be the core motivation. And then we learned that the money was needed. So we decided to go for the global awareness and to try and see if we can promote this through twinning, through working with schools around the world. Now, the idea is that, of course, if you have schools in Romania, they teach around the Romanian curricula and they have a Romanian agenda, you know, and so forth. So you cannot come to them and tell them, well, this is what we do in Israel. It's been very successful. Please use this program. They will not, because it has to match with their needs and so forth. So we say, let's do it in a lighter manner. And this is where we came up with the twinning concept. So the idea is that the schools in the world study the subject using our principles, but in their own way, in according to their own curricula. And of course, the schools in Israel study in the program the way we promote it. And then after they study for a while, we allow them to engage in a twinning effort, whereby they can share some of their findings and some of their experience, and then create a joint work on the motivation. So here it is that what we came up with as a program. So the twinning process really starts with training the teachers and providing them some content and coordinated twinning. So we say, here's the piece of content which we translated initially as general content to English. And with Florin's help, you know, some of it was translated to Romanian. So we provided some background, but we mostly had some training for the teachers and gave them the idea, and mostly listened to them and heard what they need to do and what they want to promote. And then we identify focal area that have value for their curricular needs. So if it is a school that focuses on mathematics or on the environment or on the history or culture or whatever is their focus, their age group that they select and so on, we listen to them. And what is their shortage? What do they need? Do they need equipment? Do they need content? Do they need connection with the industry? Where can we help in what they need? And then once we identify this area, like for instance, if they come up with biology, we study the science of biology as it relates to water, the biology of wastewater reclamation, the biology of water purity and contamination, and what have you. And so we provide them some basic value for their content. What is bacteria? What are viruses? How much and how is water used in the human body? Specific, you know, as a subject. The digestion system and whatever, even the piping system in the brain and blood and so forth. So we look at pieces of content that relate to what is interesting for them, and we provide them content that relates to it. And then we develop the technology, we show them the technologies of the solutions used. Like for instance, if we're talking biology, we are looking at wastewater reclamation, which has a lot of biology and bacterial activity in it. So where in the real world of water are those science principles that they want to emphasize applied? So if they want to work on biology, here is what you can do on biology with water, where it relates to your curricula. Physics, pumping energy. Pumping water requires a lot of energy. So if there's a chapter on physics, we can do that and so forth. Once we have that and they have the understanding, we develop a STEM project. So what can you do to research? How can you relate to it in a multidisciplinary manner? What project can you build and so forth? And when they get here to this point, they start to have activity. Now, this is very important because we want them to have something of their own in terms of what they produced to be able to share and work with a school in Israel. So we then connect them to a school in Israel where they come up to their meeting and with not with empty hands. So they have something to show. They studied, they understand, the children were exposed to the subject. They did some research on the chemistry of water or on prevention of leakage of water or what have you. And they have a story to tell, a story from their own town and so forth. And when we do that, then they can start to work together, teacher with teacher, and then students with students. And when they're ready for it, in a few weeks' time, we then encourage them to share some of their findings. We found in Israel this and that and so forth, and what they found, elsewhere in Europe. And by the way, it doesn't have to be on the same subject. It can be working together on the same project, but doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Namely, we try to be very flexible. So we don't force them a curricula or pedagogy approach or anything. We offer what we can, a lot of experience, and then in a very flexible manner, we adapt it to their needs and to what they think is important. And then we expect them to spread the word as we are doing now because it was successful. So basically, what we have is a curricula very, very aligned with the basics, English, mathematics, physics, and what have you. You can see the subjects here, and then you can see water systems here. Wastewater reclamation, desalination of seawater, smart irrigation, leakage prevention, all of these that come from our world of the industry. And then in each and every cubicle like this, you can see the chemistry of wastewater treatment, or the chemistry of preventing the rust in the piping and what have you, or the biology and so forth. So basically, we take school and we take the industry. You see desalination facility here, and we are really making a bridge. And it is not trivial. A lot of industry wants to work with schools, but they come from where they come from, and they have their facilities and their interests. School has a different facility, agenda and so forth, and there needs to be a bridge of people that really understand both sides. And having worked with the school industry for 20 somewhat years now, and worked in the industry for 30 years earlier, 50 years of a lot of experience, and this enables us to do the bridging. And what we do in High Teach, of course, we provide the teacher training, the STEM project, e-learning, which we did, even before the Zoom, and of course the Zoom, the web site that we sent you the link, and I recommend that you look through it because it's really very, very interesting. We'll go through it in a minute. And of course, we do school visits. We come to the schools and we take the schools to the facilities and show them. And it's a different visit if you come with the school with our guidance as compared to just the school. And then, of course, we connect them with the industry and provide the graduation events together. Of course, on the water crisis in the world, we don't have to elaborate, I'm sure you know, and the situation is only getting worse, of course, and more critical. And, we have 85% of people living in dry areas and, billions without access to proper sanitation. You know that in Romania, and 1 billion people without clean, safe water to drink, more people with cell phones than with toilets. You know all this story, and it really requires treatment. And it comes about because we have a tremendous water footprint. We waste a lot of money, including like 15 tons of water on a kilo of meat, and we know that this is devastating. Now, we in Israel have been living in this situation and state of mind for ages, for thousands of years since biblical time. We are here, we are on the verge of the desert, and the sons of Jacob went to Egypt because there was drought. And you can see through the Nile, there was no drought in Egypt. And this goes back to the history. So they spent in Egypt, they say 400 years, the Bible says. But anyhow, then they came back because they were dependent on water. So this goes in our culture, in the Bible, including with the Arabs next to us and so forth. And even in Christianity, water has a tremendous value of purity and all that. And this is because of where we developed and where we lived for many years. So water is a scarce resource here and is cherished in the culture. So it's easy to try to educate based on that. Now, Israel, as a result, has developed a lot of solution for the water challenge. And this is like one slide that tells you practically everything we do on water. It's a short slide, but here's what we do. First of all, we reclaim the wastewater. Very, very important aspect. You see a reclamation facility here. Not only do we treat the water so we don't spill it over as pollution to the fields and to the nature, to the environment, but we rather purify it to the stage where we can use it for irrigation. So our drinking water serves twice. We drink it and then we reuse it after it goes down in the toilet and so forth for irrigation. So that's number one, a very big factor in the water industry in Israel. The other thing is the desalination of seawater. So all of our drinking water, about 600 million cubic meters annually, come from reclamation of desalinated seawater, from desalination of seawater. So this requires a lot of energy, very sophisticated process. This is number two. The third thing we do is that once we do use this reclaimed water for irrigation, we do it very smartly with drip irrigation and so forth, so we don't waste the water in irrigation. Irrigation, of course, is the biggest consumption of water. So these are the three. And then, of course, we prevent leaks. Leakages in Israel, on the average are way below 6% now, heading towards 2.5% across the country. Now, this is a phenomenal number. The typical number around the world is more like 25%, as you well know. In urban cities and rural areas, a tremendous amount of waste of drinking water. So these are the four technologies. There are more, but these are the key technologies. But the more important thing is that we apply these technologies. We have a very large program that promotes with subsidies and so forth the adoption of modern programs. For instance, the current thing we do is we promote AMR, automatic meter reading, with wireless. So when you do AMR and you continuously monitor water consumption, then of course you can prevent leaks and so forth. It's costly, but it is promoted with subsidies around the country and so forth. And of course, this is resulting in prevention of leakages and so forth. So broad application and proper management of the entire system. So we have a management system and regulation where we have all the stakeholders participate in the cycle, and this includes the education. So we have a body where the government, but not only the government, the private industry, the users, the agricultures, and so forth, Ministry of Health, and other interests are in the industrialists, that make the facilities, that run those facilities. So this is a governing body, and it's like a board of directors. It is not the government, it's the board of directors that controls the interest and regulation in the country. And it is something very interesting, and it makes sure that everybody's interest is taken care of. And it is, being studied by people around the world, because this really is the way to do it. We don't do too many excellent management things in Israel. You can look at the political situation and the chaos we are in. Hopefully it ended yesterday and we will have a government, but we've been in turmoil for 2 years now. So not everything we do is perfect. But in terms of managing the water systems, we think we have a good formula. And so these are the things we do: reclamation of wastewater, desalination of seawater, effective irrigation, leakage prevention, and broad application of these technologies through proper management of the water system, amongst which we have education as a key element. So that is in one lump the basic things that we do, and we use this as a basis for the education. The story is told in this wonderful book that you can get on Amazon, Let There Be Water. There is another very interesting article in English that I just stumbled on that I will send you shortly, written by some leading experts on the subject who are all partners of ours, and you will see all those elements. So this would be an interesting one paper, but this is a very good book available on Amazon in English that you can buy, and then it provides you like a textbook for all those things that I mentioned. We do it, of course, across the culture. So a lot of our content is in Arabic. We work with a lot of our, we have 20% of our schools, Arab schools, which is proportionately the part that they have in the population. They're doing excellent work. And in terms of the subject-based learning, the project-based learning, we try to do some research. So here's an example of the research you do at home, which is similar to what you do, but we actually do experimentation on the usage of water, how to save, and what is the consumption of water, what are the biggest sources of consumption and waste, if you want, at home. The other thing are the other high-end components, like the seawater desalination, where you go from the principle and the osmosis and reverse osmosis and energy consumption, and you take the students to the laboratories here in the Technion, the academia, and actually experiment with the diaphragm and with the membrane. And then we turn this into curricular e-learning and take them to a visit in the facility. Now, today, we cannot take them to the facility because of the corona. Now it is starting to start again. But basically, because this is the situation, we went ahead and did some virtual filming of 360-degree virtual movies. So let me take you on a virtual tour like this, just to give you an example of what this is. And so this is a tour of the desalination facility. And watch that I can move the picture around. See, I do this with my mouse. And with the cell phone, you can go ahead and move the phone around. And if we continue, you can see as we go in, you can see in the facility we have, the drone with us, and then we walk actually into the water filters, and you can actually see the water. And so the students can walk around and look around, and this is very, very exciting. And you see the big pump room, and you can hear the noise. And again, you can look around and turn up or down and so forth. So the students can stay active and actually touch the water almost. And then of course they get to the big pumps, and they can see the energy flowing into the membrane, and really a tremendous amount of cost, and how the membranes are operating, and how they are maintained. The membranes are a key element here, and so they need to be replaced. And so they really have a tremendous experience. Now, the most important element in the desalination facility is the energy recovery. You see, these big arrangements here actually reclaim part of the energy that is used for desalination. Very, very impressive apparatus that cut the price, the cost of energy and price, almost by half. So the children have the experience to study it, and of course it becomes a very interesting lesson in physics. And or if we go to the wastewater, so you can see the wastewater treatment and the special wastewater system, or the bacterial rise and so forth, and how the bacteria look, and they go through the visit and with a microscope and so on. But this is interesting. You see, when we use the aspect of reclaimed water, the question we ask with the students is, what would the future look like after people are using reclaimed water to irrigate. And there are some challenges with the produce and mostly with what it does on the soil. So what you see here on the side is a very interesting experiment with children and Kiryat Gat that we're actually experimenting with rinsing the soil if it was watered with contaminated water for too long. So the idea is that we put the students in a futuristic state of what would happen with this new solution of reclamation, which is not trouble-free, you know, it has prices to it on the energy and other stuff. So these are the kind of things we do. So it's very futuristic. Reclaiming water from the sea requires that we pump the water from the sea rather than from the Sea of Galilee, the way it was in the beginning. So we have a whole new infrastructure to pump water and the students study it. Or if you study the advanced irrigation, you know, these dripper irrigations are not just piped with plastic with holes in it. They have very interesting apparatuses in them to control the water flow and so forth. So these students in East Jerusalem study and investigate those devices, including the analysis of what it takes to pump water and what is the function of a water tower and what are water pressure and so forth, and actually do experiment with a pump, with a, you know, and look at the supply of water in a hilly system like Haifa, where you invest a lot of energy in pumping the water. So they actually experiment with it in class and do some analysis, or look at those pumps that valves that we saw before in the company being made. How do they work, and what is the pressure and so forth? And that's a very interesting cycle, including ancient wells. Now, this ancient well, we turned it into a physics lab. We had a camel moving this through the transmission and the moments here and the leverage, a big chain with a lot of water being pumped from the well. Now, this is very heavy, so they needed this proportionate leverage and gears, and then it accumulates water in this tank. And this has been reconstructed, and so we take the students to this facility, and we ask them a simple question. You see this big pool? How long will it take to fill up the pool, we ask them. And then they start to figure it out. You know, what is the size of the boxes and at what rate they come up, and this is in liter, and this is in meter cubes, and so forth. And so they figure out the number, and they come up with the result, and then we go ahead and measure how much it takes to fill up a pie like this, and then see how much it will take to fill up the entire thing. All of a sudden, the calculation of space and volume becomes tangible. Bottom line is they come up with a different number, and of course we start to analyze where is all the water going, because it takes twice as much as they thought, and then they analyze it. So we have reverse engineering. They actually analyze the well, and it goes all the way to mathematics, and you can see moments and, you know, the relationship. It becomes very elaborate, and we ask them how much power it requires, how much force. So it's really a class in physics and really upgrading the level of the teachers. And of course, you can do that in your museum as well. You just need to have a different approach to it, not just show them, but use it as a basis. And we use simple devices based on Lego, which are very, very sophisticated in way of education, simple motors, but exciting pumps and gauges and pistons like this. And so, and we have a whole set like this that we offer that is mobile, you know, in a package like this. And it's based on standard equipment and on special equipment that we get from the industry. And together we make these devices, including test devices and data loggers that you can see here, which allow the students to measure on their cell phones all the performance. So all of a sudden the class becomes a very sophisticated laboratory. So this is basically what we have. And then we have a nice graduation event with the students showing the project and so forth. Very exciting, and they do it very professionally, you know, with posters and analysis, and they're very proud about it. And here's an example of we comparing water in Miami and Israel. Problem here in Miami is leakages and flooding, where it is shortage of water in Israel. And then they got together. So of course they got very friendly. And then Florine came over with our friend from India, past President Ralfi, and they presented challenges of water from the world to our students who came to a big international water conference, professional conference. So the students were engaged with solving the problems that Florine has told them about, pollution in Romania and so forth. And then they went ahead and visited this ultra-modern conference, where this is one of the leading filtration company. And so they saw filtration and desalination and leakage prevention and so forth, went through the entire thing. Cross-culturally, Jews and Arabs working together, you can see, very exciting. And then they brainstormed together to try and apply those technologies to solve the problems that they learned about, all in one afternoon. And they were creative, and they were creating all these posters, you know, in English. And you can see that they presented them very proudly to the industry in the conference. So they became, you know, leading attraction of the entire thing. And Florine was with us and addressed them, and they were very excited. And we thank Florine for coming and participating with us and experiencing this very unique experience, because it's really very special. So when you have an international conference like this with, you know, almost 70 students coming, and from all schools around the country, it is really impressive. And the children go home with a huge impression. And of course, the Rotary supports the program from the Haifa Club, and they come to the activities. This is in America, where when we were recognized as noteworthy program, very, very big event in Atlanta, really very, very encouraging. And they supported us for almost $500,000 thus far. And here's Florine addressing the children. And we see some lucrative Rotarians, the leading people on the water and contributors from America, when they meet the Ministry of Water in Israel, see some of the donating clubs and the districts. And this is Barry Rassin, the PRI, who said pure and simple, this is Rotary, and we must examine how to take it to the world. And we did. And then what happened was he came on board on our graduation and congratulated the students. And when this vice president of Water International asked a student in a visit to a school, so what's in it for you? You know, this is exciting for the Rotarian, exciting for the industry. Why do you get excited about the program? So he said very simply, a thrilling response. He said, I learned that I can understand. So in other words, in school, they're taught mathematics and physics, but they don't see the connection, and they don't quite understand how it relates to real world. They can understand the formula, but they don't really understand the subject as it relates to work. Now, after this experience, they understand how it relates to work. It puts a different perspective on studies of science, and the students become very, very engaged. And most of our coaches were our students in the past, and so forth. We had 3 students, 3 coaches that were students of ours in the past. By the way, our coaches that come in as engineers, they have 4 rather engineers that studied at the Technion and other places and came on board. They, after a few years with us, figured that now they understand water, as Florine was saying. Unless you really have the breadth of all the industry and understand the principles, how they apply to all these technologies, you don't really understand water as an engineer. So it's an excellent experience for engineers. The program has been very long. This is how long it takes to get a grant. And now this is our schools in Israel, and they're spread. As you can see, these are cities where we are involved, Arab cities here in Jerusalem, up in the Galilee, near Tel Aviv and elsewhere. And so this is the key elements of the program, of the twinning. As we discussed, we have improved the grant, and we started the program. We developed the STEM and then the connection as we did before, including very elaborate sessions in Zoom with people in Poland or here in Romania. You can see Florine here, and you can see people from another school, from URED, from schools in Romania. And then the students in Romania had a competition to come up with the slogan, and it was a marvelous thing because it has the Star of David and the colors of Romania. And so a lot of engagement with that. And this is with Poland, a competition on the drawings. And well, this is like your AquaPix. Actually, they did the same thing. And Florin ran this business of the logo. And we had a wonderful case study with Albania. And this is our spread around the world today, which is really fascinating. So this is where we are. And this is our website that I sent you the link. You have it in the presentation. But what the nice thing about it is that we had a graduation event where the students presented their work, presented posters, and then we had 3 parallel sessions where they actually presented the work with about 400 people, students and notarians and teachers from around the world present. So a very, very impressive event. Took almost 3 hours with an opening assembly meeting and the side presentation, the breakout rooms, and a summary, and a nice quiz that we had, international competition, and really nice. But all of it is recorded. So you walk into our website and you will feel as if you are in the event. So you can really get a feel for the way the children react and for the presentation, the posters, and so forth. So this is basically what we wanted to show you. We have many partners, World Bank and others, but the important thing is really to stop the presentation now and to try and think together about what we can do to promote the collaboration. So first of all, if you have any questions, by all means, we are here to try and answer. And then we will go further, into seeing what we can do together. So any questions? It seems like you understand all. There are 2 ways. Either you understand, or it's not interesting, or that you are overwhelmed. And I hope you're not overwhelmed.
No, can I say something?
Yes.
Okay. I also noticed that the curricula taught in schools, in Romanian schools, often does not have practical application, and children do not understand why they have to memorize certain subjects.
Exactly.
It would be great if you could change something in Romanian education system. I would be glad to be part of this project. So what we can do? We can choose some schools, partner schools, and we can advertise our activities. We can create, as you did, multimedia materials. Actually, I'd like to tell you that it was very interesting video on the desalination station. I like it very much. Those kind of materials.
Like this, there are like this on reclamation, on the facility for the hydraulic valves, and many more are coming on production of electricity with steam and with water. So we have a couple of such 3D. And by the way, these 3D virtual tours, which are a substitute for the real tour. So while it was nicer for students in Israel to come to the facility, but now that we do it virtually, the nice thing about it is that it's available for you as well. So it has an advantage. But we do not take the children to the visit directly. We teach them beforehand, what is desalination? How does the membrane work? What is pressure? What is energy? How does it turn into cost and so forth? How do we reclaim the energy? In fact, we use pistons of Lego and build a model of reclamation of energy, which you then can see with these big pumps and all that. And so it's a whole concept. The visit, the virtual visit, which of course is very interesting, is the heart of it, but it is not all of it. The nice thing about it is that it's a very holistic concept. And so what happens is, it is interesting, very interesting. It is relevant to science because they actually study energy and reverse osmosis. And so what is osmosis? Very important. They measure the quality and the level of salinity, so they do some chemistry as well, with conductivity and so forth, very simple. So it's a whole concept, and then they build a model. So what they have is what the teaching industry, the pedagogy, schooling, they call PBL, project-based learning. So the students are very engaged. So what will happen is at the end of the year, they have value in physics or science or mathematics. They have value in water, which is what we want. They have a huge experience, very exciting, and they are happy about schooling. The difference is that they're very happy about it, and they become our super agents. They tell the story. So the teachers are excited and the students. So you're right, it is converting the school. Now, I'm not saying that it is easy, because when you introduce it to teachers, they don't know how to do it. They are afraid. It's not like one day you do it with all the schools. But, we did it with one school. We do it with 4, 5, 10 schools, next year. We do it with more in the following year. It can take us a few years, but we had 15 schools around the world this year, during the Corona year, and it was very successful. And we can easily get to 100 schools around the world next year. So to think about a couple of schools in your town, in your area, is very reasonable. We can set a goal of 10, if we make it 5, it's not too bad, but go ahead from the one school that we have, which of course is an excellent agent. And we have now the advantages that we have 3 schools in Romania.
May I have some words to say some words regarding this aspect? Because, they have to know that now in this moment we have 4 schools, 2 in Târgu Jiu, 2 very good college is in Târgu Jiu, one private school from Iași, and another high school from Oradea. And they have started with being a part of this process of teachers training, and they are moving very, very well. And the key role have to play the teachers. If you have good teachers, the students, which are very, very active and very impressive by the topic, the teachers are the key element to put together the topic, the curricula, and to involve and commit the students in this process. And from this point of view, I'm really happy and impressed by the job done by the teachers and the students from the 4 schools. Then you can identify the local schools from Timișoara area or for your county. There are some minimum requirements regarding the language and the know-how, a basic law and interest for this topic, water and environmental. And then the things are moving slowly and in good direction, because we have this previous experience from these 4 schools, and they can be in touch, the teachers from the new schools with the teachers with the existing schools in the pilot project. And we'll be doing the similar way in Cluj County. I have a very good relationship in water utility in Cluj and in Rotary Cluj, and they are really very open and they want to be included in this project in the next stage.
Yeah. And by the way, one thing that you do wonderfully in Romania, and now is spreading quickly, is this business of connection with the museums. So wonderful. This really is wonderful because you have good infrastructure. And we have the same, with even older, mostly very, very old. We don't have that many museums of, the recent 20th century, but only the beginning of the 20th century and the very, very early engines and even without engines. and then ancient, thousands of years old. So it's complementary, the museums that we have, but we have many. And so we can connect them. And this is one of the things we did, you see, because this museum with the camel, with the well, with the camel, they invited us to come there and say we had invested a lot of money in reconstruction of this well to a state where it actually works. And the students don't come. And I said to them, they don't come because you only teach them the stories of the past and the history, but this is a physics lab. And so if you make this relevant now, it would be more interesting. And they didn't understand what I had in mind. And we tried it with a couple of classes. And actually the students and the teachers liked it because we brought them over, showed them, and we first asked them, how does it work? And then they figured out it's not very easy, because when the buckets go up and they go down, the water will go back to the well. There's a device there that moves the water to the side. Very tricky. It looks very simple. It is not. And then we asked them, how long will it take to fill up the pool? A very simple question. Well, the answer required a couple of hours of work, and they became very excited. So we can do that, and we can turn your pumping stations and so forth, into very exciting. So what we need to do there is the following. We translated some of the content to English as a basic initiation that we use in the pilot. So we have currently 4, 5, 6 pieces of content available already that starting teachers can start. And then the other thing we can do, the idea is that we can then tailor a piece of content specific that adapt to your activity, your museum, things that you want to promote or interest that you have. So we develop more content, more specific. This does require some effort on our part, including running the teachers training. So we could use some financial support. But other than that, we have a lot of experience and way to do it, and it can be done very effectively because we can operate it over the internet, and that is relatively easy. So I'm glad you like it. I think it's a good idea. And so what do you suggest we do next? Because timing is important. Now we have a month where students are still at school, are active, and this is the best time to engage with school with the idea that, of course, they will prepare and work next year. But this is the time to connect with them. So what do you think in terms of the timing? I think we can think about it or have some idea. How do you suggest we progress?
Okay, first of all, we have to create our partnership of kind of a memorandum, because we have to tell to everybody what we want to do. This is the first step to create maybe a protocol meeting or something like that with pictures.
Right. This is exactly what we have with others, and so we have a template like this that we can use. By all means, having an MOU is very helpful.
And secondly, maybe we create an event like a conference, or we can invite at this event schools, teachers, students, universities, everything. And then we have two ways to act. First of all, we can select some schools, some partner schools, or first of all, we can select some partner schools, and we will see what can we add value at the educational process, or we can together make an inventory of. We can study the curricula in order to make an inventory of the lessons where we can add the value. We can
You're
start...
right, and by the way, this is not necessarily either or, because we have some curricula that for introduction that we already produced. So this is available both in Hebrew, I mean, in English already, and in Romanian that Florin was good enough to translate with the teachers. And then, of course, we will engage with the schools and understand their interest and decide on topics that we can add in addition. So yes, I think this is the right approach. And if we can bring academia into it, with students that will be willing to either coach or even study and become our coaches, and that would be a very very fruitful approach.
Yeah. You are thinking according with your mentality and your culture and your legislation in Israel. Unfortunately, Romania, it's a little bit different. It's a lot of bureaucracy. There are different decision makers regarding the water sector and the education, which means the county school inspectorate or such of the which are responsible for the curricula, and take some times to modify the curricula with the teachers and with the schools managers. And this is a long process which can be started in the next period of time, in the summer vacation, and in the beginning of the next scholar year will be ready for discussion. But in the same time, if we create a group of professionals for education and for water sector, from water utility, from professional organization, from academia, because don't forget Timișoara, Iași, and Cluj, they are also university cities. They have a lot of university teachers and universities in this field of water, and they can be put together to develop the concept in the next couple of months or years, but take some time. But to have a such of, according with the summary of this first meeting, to have a such of action plan or such of memorandum of understanding of the future cooperation is the first step. Decision makers, they are difficult sometimes in Romania. I'm from the system and I know well how it's happened.
Right. Well, let me first of all thank you, Florin. You're absolutely right. Clearly, we know this is the situation. I just want to make one comment that it is challenging in terms of bureaucracy in Israel as well. And in order to avoid that, what we developed was an attitude where we don't want to change the curricula. So if you come and ask them to change the curricula, the very concept is challenging. So we sort of camouflage it in a different way. We are working with the current curricula. Now, the reason we say basic sciences, like for instance, physics, Newton's law, everybody is studying Newton's law, force F equals ma and what have you and so forth. The basic physics, basic chemistry, what is pH and what have you, so forth. And these are taught by all schools. So what we do is we take the elements from water and we demonstrate the basic of science, basic mathematics, two equations with two unknowns, equations of power, like exponential growth and so on, the exponent and so on. Very, very basic elements which are taught by all schools around the world. And we take the elements from water and show how they relate to it. So we do not ask the teachers to change their curricula. We just ask them, what do you teach? If we speak with the chemistry teachers, we know he's talking about acids and base and what have you, and alkyne and okay, so where do we have base, acid and alkyne and reaction and salt in minerals in our system, and we give a demonstration. What is organic chemistry and so forth. So they can come up with whatever they teach, And we give them sort of examples. We show them how to do it in PBL and so forth. And so when we do it this way, they can apply hours to the subject without changing the curricula. If we ask them to change the curricula, big trouble. Then they have to go for authority and all that. If we don't do that, then they don't have to ask for that. They have to ask the schoolmaster to try this out. But of course, this depends on the school. We will have to engage with the schools and see if we have teachers and schoolmasters with imagination and free mind, they can explore it. If not, of course, we will have to. Now, if we meet with the municipality education system or government, and we have someone very open, that's okay. But their default is no. Their default response is no.
I think also we have to offer to AQUATIM the opportunity to ask and to explain us which are their needs connected to the program developed by us. Maybe today or in the next meeting or after the summary of this meeting, they need some time to identify the connections and the needs they have from us. Right. And as I know my schedule in the next period of time, I want to be in the next 2 or 3 weeks in Timișoara for many reasons. I have some other professional interest to meet AQUATIM, and maybe we can develop on face-to-face some aspects regarding of our future cooperation. According with the program of the general manager of Timișoara Water Utility and Christina program.
Yes. I think some of their interests are clear in the website which we studied, and they're very clear. But yes, by all means, do send us, either an update or emphasis that are different from what we learned from the website, and we would start to draft it in the MOU. And so I suggest in the MOU we lay out some principles, some of the content directions that we can take, and you will fill up, the interest, the emphasis that you want, and maybe a tentative roadmap of what we can do, and some, broad idea, and you will tell us if you can help us, financially to support the effort, because we have this effort, going around the world, and we are dependent on that support, and we will start to formulate it, and we'll see what happens. I'm very glad that we had the time. I know we took a long time, like 90 minutes almost, for our discussion, but I think it was very fruitful, and it was exciting to visit your website and study that you are engaged. And I really feel that we can help you go a step further to make this more profound, more professional, and expand the activity and benefit from it. And I think that both our students and your students will benefit from the interaction, because it's English, it's international collaboration. It brings a lot of excitement to the student. And of course, it doesn't all have to be focused on Israel. Later on, you can work, between, Romanian schools, Romanian and the US, or Romanian and Poland. So it doesn't all have to be centered around Israel. We're thinking about a network of schools like this that will soon be some sort of parallel to the museum network. And this will be the plan. Yes, all right, Christina, final word, or we want to hear what Karina has to say.
Yes, and Karina, and I would like to, at the end, introduce my colleague, Daniel. I would like, Daniel, please tell a few words if you want to say something. Oh, Daniel.
Hello. Yes, I'm here.
Yes, Daniel, can you please tell us something about the project, this project? What do you think about?
For us, for AQUATIM, and for what the other colleague will say, that it's important for us to collaborate with the university and to go further, because it's important for us to show the students how is the reality that we have in our industry, and to make the bridge between the companies and the university. So it's very important to see them what is the real life in the industry. So I think it's a good project, and I will go further with what I can help.
Yes, and I'd like to point that we can work with the future teachers. I mean, with the students who will be able to change something in the how to say, thinking of the process. If we work now with the students at chemistry, physics, or technology, even with the history students, then the future generation will benefit from different perspective of education systems.
Absolutely, absolutely, Christina. You have it right. This is exactly the point, and you're right. It's history and culture and literature, because water is everywhere. So we can find aspects, all elements, economy, and young students that will be teachers, of course, is one thing. And also with existing teachers, you will find amongst the existing teachers some that will get excited. Not all of them. Some will be scared by it because it's change. But young teachers are available in schools as well. And we need to, and the important thing is that we focus on them and on helping them go across this bridge. This is from old teaching to new teaching, and it is scary. So we can help them. We have the know-how, and we know what concerns them, and we can really help them in that respect. We don't have all the answers, but we have many answers.
I believe we can choose from the teachers that are already coming to AquaPeak with their students, because obviously they are open to new ideas and to, for the moment, to this non-formal education that we provide at AquaPeak. But I'm sure that they will be very interested in a program like this, and we can choose from them.
Good, excellent. In fact,
as Christina said before, you have to develop events, simple events in your facilities, in other informal places connected to the water, and to be like a story. That doesn't matter, it's a history, it's a technical, scientific issues, and comparing the existing situation in the water infrastructure in Israel, they don't have natural resources, but they have the very good human resources, and they developed the innovation, and they have preserved the few natural resources to a high level. Reuse water, it's a high level in any country in the world. It's more 90% of the water reused in Israel. Romania has natural resources, but I don't want to blame somebody. Romania doesn't have human resources, high qualified in many sectors of the water infrastructure, and we are missing a lot of innovation. We have invested a lot of money the last 2 decades in the water sector, but unfortunately we can yet see the good results in the quality of water services. But we have spent a lot of money, and we have to work to the mentality, to the education, and to the professional level of the staff in the water utilities, especially on the middle level and low level of the staff. These are major issues for Romanian water sector in the future. I have worked more 40 years in the water sector. We have to recognize the local realities and to move forward.
And I think it's very applicable. And not everything was ideal in Israel as well. it was very troubling. So the reason this was developed was because there was no life without it. So all the kibbutzim, all the farms, they needed to develop this technology because otherwise there was no life. So out of the need, but now it is packaged nicely so that we can introduce it. So I suggest we will draft an MOU, send it to you, Christina. You will be and you revert back to us and change it, and we'll swing it around a couple of times. And otherwise, Ram will be our contact person. I will be very involved myself in the poll, and hopefully we will come up with a plan, and we can make some content pieces that are relevant to your part of the museum or your visits to the AQUATIM and so forth, and so it would become very relevant to the audience that you have. Excellent. Okay, Ram, what do you want to add and wrap this up? Being the master of the international activity, he trained us.
Always,
he trained us such that now I work for him and I do other work for him.
It's always exciting to have new partners, and the collaboration with Romania was especially with the 4 schools we have already. And so we are excited because we see that the collaboration is very good, and having new partners will only make it even richer and more effective. And the collaboration with water utilities and water museums might be even might add another added value to our activity in Romania. So I have a lot of expectations for next year.
And now we see the next generation there with our expectation next to it. Ram is one of those very talented managers that all he needs to do to get things done the way he wants is just to keep quiet, and things get done the way he wants it. And this is an excellent virtue of his. And we are very, very excited with Ram with us. And thank you very much all. It was really an exciting experience. So we will respond accordingly. Is Danielle part of AQUATIM and works on the academia part of it?
Daniel, can you say a few words about
I think he
your
yes,
CV?
I don't think he's with us.
Yes, it is. He is.
Yes.
So sorry.
Okay.
Yes, I work at AQUATIM. I'm the assistant manager of the general director. And yes, I work with Christina at the Academica Foundation, and I help her with what he needs, and I help her with the contact with the University of Timișoara.
Okay, excellent, very good. Okay, so thank you very much all. We spent a wonderful 90 minutes, and we will draft an MOU and set a time, and then Florin will visit you. We are very thankful to Florin. Florin has been professional, dedicated, and wise. And so it's a pleasure to work with Florin and with everybody in Romania. And we're just looking forward to a time where we can come visit, when things become better with Corona. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye. And we will send you the recording.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.